Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so let's talk about something literally every single one of us has dealt with. You know when you ask for something really, really important and then crickets? Just nothing happens? You just have to sit there and wait? Well, today we're going to discover why waiting for our prayers to be answered isn't just some boring, useless delay. Our source text today actually shows us that waiting is like a secret training ground for our faith. We're going to break down some really amazing concepts about how to have patient faith, how to keep believing even when it's super hard, and how to actually trust God when you're stuck in the waiting room. Honestly, it's kind of like discovering a hidden superpower you didn't even know you had.
So, let's jump right into Section 1, Why is Waiting So Hard? The struggle for an immediate answer.
Right, let's dive into this huge question. If God actually hears us, why on earth is there a delay? I mean, think about waiting for your birthday or, I don't know, a really special trip. Time just slows down to a total crawl, right? We want things instantly. But our devotional points out that thinking a delay means a straight-up no is actually a pretty big mistake. The delay? It's not an accident, and it definitely isn't because we're being ignored. Actually, there's a very specific purpose for that totally empty space between when we ask and when we receive. The text uses a verse from the Bible to show us this. It says, "It is good that a man should both hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord." Now, usually when we wait, what do? We complain, we pace around, we're constantly asking, are we there yet? But there are actually precious promises for those who can learn to just wait calmly and keep their hope completely alive, even if it feels, super frustrating at first.
Moving right along to Section 2, Faith is like a muscle. How delay builds strength. This perfectly illustrates the difference between two totally different types of faith. I mean, you definitely don't want a faith that is changeable like the waves. Imagine building this awesome sandcastle and it just gets completely washed away the exact second a wave hits it. That's kind of what happens when we just give up the moment things get hard. Instead, the text says we want to bind ourselves with strong cords of faith and love. We want to create a sincere faith that just stays anchored, no matter how many huge waves crash right into it. So, it turns out our faith actually needs a workout, literally just like our muscles. Think about it. If you want to get physically stronger, you have to exercise, right? You got to lift heavy things. Well, waiting patiently is exactly how our faith gets its workout. Every single time you make the choice to trust God while you're waiting, it's honestly like doing a push-up for your faith. The longer you patiently wait, the stronger that faith muscle actually becomes. Which brings us to Section 3. Don't pray and run away. Guarding your prayers.
Okay, have you ever played that game where you ring someone's doorbell and then just sprint away before they can even open the door? Well, the author says we absolutely shouldn't do that with our prayers. The source material actually gives us 3 exact steps for what it calls watching unto prayer. First, we pray in faith. Second, we keep believing. And third, we never lose patience. It's a totally continuous process. You ask, and then you just stand right there on the porch, confidently waiting for the door to open, knowing for sure that God isn't going to mock you. We literally have to guard our prayers with expectancy. The text tells us to wall it in with assurance. I just love this imagery. I want you to imagine building this strong, completely invisible fortress made out of pure hope right around your prayer. You're building this giant wall so that doubt, worry, and fear simply cannot sneak in. You are standing guard, you're expecting an answer, and you are totally refusing to be faithless. And look at this incredible promise. It says, "The fervent prayer of the righteous is never lost." Now, fervent just means praying with your whole entire heart. But here's the catch. The answer might not look exactly how you expected it to. Like, sometimes we ask for a really specific toy, but instead, our parents give us a super warm coat because they know a massive winter storm is coming. Well, God does the exact same thing. The answer is definitely going to come because God promised it would, even if it completely surprises us. All right, Section 4, God's secret silent work, the imperious need for calm.
So sometimes when we're waiting, it looks like absolutely nothing is happening, but God is actually incredibly busy working right behind the scenes. The text tells us that it is absolutely like imperious that we wait calmly. Imperious is just a fancy way of saying it is super, super important. Making a bunch of noisy fuss, pacing around the room, getting all worried, it doesn't actually help anything. Think about how silently God works in nature. The sun rises silently. Huge trees grow silently. In that exact same way, we need a calm, quiet spirit as we just wait on Him.
God's very best workers aren't always the loudest ones in the room. They walk in humility. They don't really need to do big, flashy, extraordinary things just to get everybody's attention. They are totally satisfied just quietly and faithfully doing their chores and handling the work right in front of them. Other people might not even notice them at all, but the text says their names are actually written down in heaven as His noblest workers.
And that brings us to our final section, Section 5, the glorious harvest, trusting the process.
Have you ever planted a tiny seed in the dirt? For days and sometimes even weeks, you look at that dirt and it looks completely, 100% empty. But underneath the soil, silently and totally secretly, that seed is breaking open and growing these massive roots. The text actually compares our faithful waiting to scattering seed in view of a glorious harvest. Your quiet prayers and your patient trust, they are exactly like those seeds. You might not be able to see the results just yet, but an amazing harvest is growing right under the surface.
So we all have a pretty big choice to make while we wait. On one hand, we can choose fretful anxiety. That just means worrying, complaining, and stressing out because we can't see the plant poking out of the dirt yet. Or, on the other hand, we can choose undaunted faith and unshaken trust. And that means literally smiling at the empty dirt, knowing for sure that the seed is growing, and just fully trusting God's silent work.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder today. What is that one big thing you've been asking for? Like, what seed of prayer are you patiently watering today? Remember, whatever you do, don't just pray and run away. Build that massive, invisible fortress of hope right around your prayer. Give your faith a really good workout by trusting silently, and just get ready, because that glorious harvest, it is absolutely on its way. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, keep building that strong, patient faith.